What's going on, good people? Welcome to another episode of First Generation Wealth Builders, man. I got my guy Dre, man. We back at it.
What up? What up? How you doing, E?
Man, I'm good.
Good.
So check it out. I'm reeling it back because we were having a conversation off camera.
Right.
Basically, you were telling me about.
Yeah, so with the sale of my property, we're also looking at moving in our in-laws. And so there's an opportunity, kind of like when we talked about our last conversation, how do I want to approach the acquisition process? So I mentioned I might have an opportunity to buy either one of my in-laws or my in-law or my mom's house. They both have 1-story ranches, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, which I know are great properties, but I may be able to get into those. And so I was just asking, like, what do you think about that?
So immediately, I asked you, what's the price point on it?
Right.
Just because if we're going to acquire rental properties in Indianapolis, just due to our market, we want to acquire properties that are in the price range of $160,000 and under.
Right.
The reason why is because the essential rule, the hitting a home run as a rental property, meaning that you scored big on this property, is the 1% rule.
Okay, and break that down for me.
The 1% rule means that the rents are equivalent to 1% of the purchase price.
Okay, so the 160 would put me at $1,600 a month.
Right.
Okay.
So if you could charge $1,600 for a property that you just paid 160 for, you've hit a home run with that property. It's a great deal.
Okay.
Every investor is looking to get 1%.
Oh, okay.
Yup, especially if the deal is financed. You're making great money there.
Okay.
So if you're indie, via my experience, when properties that I've had for lease over $1,600, one, they're tougher to rent.
Why is that?
Because people who can afford to pay $1,600 for a rental property can afford to pay $1,200 for a property that they own when they have their own mortgage.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So those people are typically in a position to where they're fixing their credit.
Okay.
And they're in a journey. They could afford it, but their credit or something is off where they can't purchase. Right. So they're just waiting on time to get out the property.
Gotcha.
And so what would happen is that I would get more turnover with that type of individual.
Right, because once their credit's together,
they're ready to go.
Yeah.
And as a landlord, you want to reduce turnover.
Right.
Yeah, all my properties are leased and everything, and I have a right around 94% retention rate. But the problem would be when they move out,
it's expensive.
You got to paint, you got to clean the carpet, you got to do more maintenance.
And then there's just cost associated with getting another renter too.
Yes,
right.
The acquisition cost with the property management fee. Good
right.
catch.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier when they stay in a property for 5 years because they paint their own walls, they clean their own carpet, and because they're treating it as their home. And that sweet spot tends to be when rents are between $1,050, $1,100 to right around $1,300.
Okay.
So when we look at properties, we want to make sure that we're focused in properties that cost max $160 and under.
Okay. So how does that work? 160 puts me at 1,600, so I'm not between 11 and 13.
Gotcha, good catch. So that's a home run, though.
Okay.
That 1,600 would be a home run.
Okay.
I use a calculation to where I would take that same equation, the purchase price of 160 times 0.0085.
Okay.
And that gives me a little bit less than 1%.
Yep.
But that still allows me to, on average, to make right around $225 per property.
Okay.
After the mortgage, the property management fee,
yep.
taxes, and everything,
gotcha.
I'm still making right around $225, and that's the minimum I take per property.
So if you can't make $225 a month, it's not a good deal for you.
Right.
Got you.
So when we acquire rental properties, or when we acquire properties, essentially we always look at the 70%. We want to buy everything where the property and the repairs are done under 70%, right?
70% of the total purchase, or is that 70% of ARV?
ARV, good
gotcha.
catch. 70% of ARV. So if the property is $100,000, that means that at 70%, we need to, that's $70,000. We would need to be able to take care of the repairs in the property with $70,000.
Buy the property, do all the repairs, $70,000 all in.
Now, this will be the deal breaker.
Okay.
If the average rents in the area were $500.
Right, because now you're upside down.
Right.
Well, no. You're overpriced because you're doing 1% of 100,000, right?
No.
No.
Think about it like this: if the average rents in the area that I just bought this property in were 500, the mortgage is going to be 532.
Okay.
At $70,000.
Okay.
So that wouldn't make sense for me to purchase that property.
Why would I rent?
Although I could, get it at a nice price, and I could fix everything for the ARV of 70%. The comps of the rents aren't good. So the same way I comped the ARV, I comp rents too.
So you want your comps to be higher than what you're going to charge for rent?
Ballpark, just close. We want them to be close in the sense of, let's say I bought the property, the ARV is $100,000, but my loan on it is going to be $70,000. That means that minimum $700 in rent or so is where I want to be, but $750 because I could tell you that $70,000 with a mortgage is going to be right around $500 or so. Okay. So I need to be right around $725 or so.
Right. So you can make your.
But if when I'm doing my due diligence, I'm doing my ARV, I do comps for rentals in the area too, just to see what the average rents are in the area. Right. But if the average rents were 500,
you're overpriced.
That deal wouldn't work.
Right.
So it's just something to consider. And the 1% rule is something that we use as a filter when we're doing our due diligence and looking for rental properties.
Gotcha.
I thought I wanted to bring that up. This number may vary from state to state, as the median price of rents may change different places.
I don't know where you are, sure.
But here, based on the income of each individual, on average, you wanna get C+ and up properties.
There's a grading system to properties?
So I would say the best neighborhoods in the city, I would grade them A neighborhoods. Okay. Great, no crime. They have shopping within a distance. They have great school systems. Okay. That's a grade A investment.
I'm tracking what you.
And then B properties would be, you may be having a little bit more traffic, a little bit more crime. The school system is rated a little bit lower, but it's still great. It's a B class asset. Then you have the C+. C+ provides a great opportunity. Why? Because once you renovate it, you could make the property a B class asset.
Gotcha.
And if it's in the right area and everything, it would make it Now, when we're talking about bad neighborhoods, high crime rate, that's a D class asset. We don't want that.
Gotcha.
So, typically, using numbers, an asset here in Indianapolis that's priced under 110, that typically is borderline C to lower. Okay. 125 to 160, you're looking at a C+ to B- asset. Okay. The great neighborhoods around here are 225 and plus. That's like A class, but we go for A class when we're doing flips.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? But that's kind of how I would grade that. There's no ruling. That's not a system that is used by everybody. That's just how I internally use. That's the language I use internally to talk to my staff.
Okay. So let me play it back. So I am looking at the grading of a particular area when I'm looking at like a call sheet or a list and say, what zip code is this in and where is it at in that zip code? Okay, that's a class, a B class, a C class, or D class, wherever it might fall. If it's a D class, it's immediately off the radar. If it's a C and up, then I'm looking at, okay, so what are the other rents in that area? What's my ARV going to be on that particular property? Can I meet my 0.0085? I think I left a zero out, but you know what I meant. Mm-hmm. Can I meet my threshold for rental income if I were to buy this property using the formula? 100%. And that's kind of before you even really consider strongly. We're not talking about going in and doing your repair cost estimation or any of that stuff.
Yeah, I do that before I leave the office.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, one thing you said, though, that I want to chime in on is you said, hey, I don't look at D-class properties. I said that, but I didn't mean it that way. So let me explain.
Okay.
If there's an area that is gentrifying, it's typically a D-class area.
Right.
That they're trying to turn. Yeah, that they're trying to turn into a B/A class area. Right. And so those are opportunity zones that we try to dive into.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So, but man, I wanted to share this with you guys as me and Dre talked about it, man. And I felt like it was essential to kind of understand the 1% rule. Basically, the 1% rule says that the rent will be 1% of your purchase price. Right. Example, $100,000 for the property equals $1,000 in rent. Right. And that typically is a great deal for any investor.
That's it.
All right, man. Thank you for checking out another episode of Entrepreneur and the First Generation Wealth Builders podcast.
Peace.